Ed, been getting a lot of questions into the control room recently about shorting.
Sure.
So what is short selling?
Simply, short selling is selling something that you don't own. So you don't own it, and you're going to sell it. So that's the part. Then you're laughing. I know, because how can you do that? Well, you have to borrow it. You have to borrow this thing, then you sell it. So you borrow it, you sell it, and then if it drops and you're right, you buy it and pay back the borrow.
So you make money out of things getting worse.
Yeah, instead of buying it first and selling second, you're selling first and buying second.
Right.
So you're selling something you don't own. That's the hard part, right? How can you sell something you don't own? Well, you have to borrow it. So you say, Ed, lend me your shares of Apple. So I lend them to you. You, unbeknownst to me, you go sell them.
Right.
And I think, you still got my shares? You say, yeah, I got them. A week later, Apple drops. You go buy those shares at a lower price. You keep the difference, which is the profit, because you sold them high. You've bought them low. And you say, hey, Ed, here's your shares back. And I'm not the wiser. Does that make any sense?
Kinda. I'm still a bit lost.
Okay. Stay right here. I'll be right back. So right away, I'm gonna say, let's use an example of, we buy 100 shares of Apple, okay? And we pay $150. Then we sell 100 at 175. We make $25 per share. You got that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's easy. That's easy. All we're going to do now is we're going to try and erase this. And we're going to start over. And I'm going to go to you and I'm going to say, you know, Mark, I think Apple's going to go down. And you say, well, I don't. And you've got some shares of Apple. And I'm going to say, lend me your shares. Lend me 100 shares. So you lend them to me. So I go down to my broker and I sell your shares, which I can do because you've lent them to me. It was as a genuine transaction. So I sell 100 shares at 175. A week later, Apple comes out with a terrible report, and I buy those 100 shares for 150, making $25, which is exactly the same thing, only the only thing I did difference here was I sold first, then I bought back. Right? And then when I buy them back, I've got the shares back. I say, hey, Mark, here's your shares back. You got your shares back, and I made $25 a share.
Right.
And so you wouldn't borrow from me. You'd go to your broker and you'd say, go to the loan post and see if you can borrow me 100 shares of Apple. They will call their loan post. They have a loan post, and they say, I want to borrow 100 shares. They don't care who it's for. They say, it may cost me, though. It may cost me 10% a year to borrow those shares, because somebody has to give up those shares so that, but then they can come back and say, I want my shares back anytime.
So you can only do this if there's enough shares there for you to borrow.
Yeah, exactly. But trust me, you can go to any stock and say how many are short. There's a short report on every company.
Okay.
Like for instance, and it's publicized every couple weeks. Same thing. We both make, when you bought at 150, sell at 175, or if you sell at 175, 150, you still make 25. You can buy it first, sell it second, or sell it first and buy it second. It's just, all you're doing is reversing the buy-sell.
Okay.
And you can't really do it with illiquid stocks, and you shouldn't do it with really small companies, because small companies can explode to the upside. But companies that have exploded to the upside, chances are they're going to come back to earth. And that's where shorting gets interesting. That's why a lot of shorts have made a lot of money in the last 3 months once marijuana went legal. Afri has gone from $20 to $8. So you could have sold, say you sold 100,000 shares at 20, and now it's 8.
I think I get it. I think I get it now. It's like watching a cooking program backwards, and you go from having a cake to loads of ingredients.
You sell it first and then buy it later. The difference, the big risk, of course, is if you sell it and it starts to go up, you've got to eventually buy those shares. So let's say you sell it at 175 and it goes to 300, Or let's say you sold Tilray. Remember Tilray?
Yeah.
It went crazy from $20 to ultimately $300. That was a short squeeze. That means that as it started to go up, the shorts had to cover, so they pushed it higher. They weren't buying it because they liked it. They bought it because they had to. That's called a short squeeze.
Okay, so I think I have a grasp on it.
A grasp?
Do you know what? Maybe not a grasp. Maybe I could get a short squeeze on it, Ed.
Short squeeze?
A short squeeze.
You want a short squeeze?
A short squeeze. Bring it in,
short.
bring it
This is
in,
very
bring it
short.
in, bring it in,
Very
bring it
short.
in, bring it in,
Very
bring it
short.
in.
Jesus.
That was awkward.